Hello, everyone. It's Ty. With Star Rail 3.8 mere weeks away, 4.0 looms just around the corner. So today, I thought it the perfect time to look at a few things I hope for in Star Rail version 4. As a spoiler warning, I casually mention plot points of the story up to and including 3.7. Viewer discretion is advised. You have been warned. The story of Star Rail has been one of my favorite things about the game since I started playing in 1.3, and the version 2 experience was so amazing that I didn't think that they could top it. But Amphorius proved me wrong. A brilliant cast of characters, an intriguing mythos, and immensely engaging events led me to fall in love with the story all over again, and the depths to which the reveals delved kept me constantly looking forward to the next patch like some new episode of television. All of that came beautifully to a head with the events and reveals of 3.4. Finally, we'd reached the end of the flame chase journey that we'd been a part of for 7 months. Bringing the last core flame, it was time to face the big bad, to stop Iron Tomb and save Amphorius and the cosmos. But first, we have to spend a patch making Silence and Ceredra relevant to justify them as pullable characters. So we do a side quest where we do another final Flame Chase journey, but a little different this time. Okay, fine. But then we finally finish that quest and we get the final last core flame so we can face the big bad, stopping Iron Tomb, saving Amphorius, and the cosmos. Right. Yeah, just as soon as we do another side quest, learning about what Mart and Dan Heng have been up to, Evernight does her best impression of Enna the Order, trapping us in a loop created to make us happy. We get out of that, everyone's reunited, it's great, aw, and now, we finish the third final flame chase journey, and with really truly the last final core flame, we're ready to go and fight Iron Tomb and etc, etc. But real quick, let's take a trip down Memoria Lane to remind ourselves of the individual reasons that we like each of the Chrysos heirs so that we can feel really strong emotions when they invariably sacrifice themselves in the final battle. Just a little mini final flame chase journey, if you will. Then we finally, really finally, fight Iron Tomb and save the cosmos. At least for now. Now, of course, I'm being a bit facetious. I really loved the Amphorius story, but let's be honest, they were basically edging for 2 patches before the climax of 3.7. I appreciate the direction that they took, having the main story last for the entire patch rather than ending with the first couple and just having filler patches for the rest. But I really hope to see them do a better job in version 4 of making all of the patches maintain their narrative momentum throughout. In that same vein, the story of Amphorius expressly placed us in a situation where narratively we were trapped in Amphorius. Nothing could happen that could be considered canon unless it was taking place in Amphorius. That's not a problem in itself, but a game where each patch also includes some event or other, it starts to pose some serious chronological issues. Nearly every event in 3.x had to be shoehorned in, often requiring us to do our own mental gymnastics in order to organize the timeline. The morning Starlight event on the Herta station, the Galactic Baseballer refresh, and the Hamster Ball racing events in Penacony. Hell, even the Fate collab itself had to awkwardly mention that it took place some time before coming to Amphorius. It creates some unpleasant, if amusing, dissonance. Don't you remember that thing that happened in the past that you are actually only experiencing for the first time right now? The absolute worst of it was that we couldn't even go to see Pom Pom or help with Pom Pom quests without breaking continuity. Absolutely unforgivable. So, I hope in version 4 that we have more events unique to the world that we visit, like the Chimera and the Dromus events. Better yet, just keep us narratively free to do the little event stories that may come up in other places without it feeling completely inappropriate. And obviously, please, I'm begging you, just leave us free to go back to see and help Pom Pom without feeling like we're breaking story continuity. One of the most exciting things about version 3 was the introduction of a new path, Remembrance. With its focus on the new Memo Sprite mechanics, it seemed like it could breathe some new life into the somewhat stagnant combat system. Unfortunately, it mostly just came down to being a new icon to show on the drip marketing and a way to encourage pulling for new light cones. Every Remembrance character in version 3 fulfills a role already covered by the previous paths. Aglaya as a single target and blast attacker is basically like Destruction. Castoris as a AoE attacker is more or less like Erudition. Hyacine uses her pet to do abundance-style healing, with very little differentiating her from Ling Sha. Evernight does specialized damage amplification and damage like a Nihility character. RMC is basically another Harmony character, and Cyrene straight up defies the only unique thing about Remembrance by not even having a summon. And no, having yourself be your own Memo Sprite does not count. Worse still, due to the severe lack of 3 and 4-star Remembrance light cones at the start of 3.0, and let's face it, even into 3.7, there really aren't a lot of options for Remembrance characters other than to pull for their own signature light cones. So why did we need a new path? It's narratively interesting for sure, but it didn't bring anything really new to the table. Now, whispers on the wind say we may get an Elation path in version 4. If that happens to be true, I hope for Elation to truly bring something new to the combat equation. If the Try Not to Laugh event of 3.6 was a testbed for Elation in the same way that 2.4's Trash Can Friendship event was for Remembrance, then Elation may just involve everyone on the team playing like normal, except for random shit happening all over. Or maybe the presence of an Elation character changes the way other characters play. Either of these seem like they could be interesting and hopefully can meaningfully set Elation apart from other paths. A mechanic that allows Elation characters to use the light cones of other paths would also be a great way to making sure we don't have a repeat of the Remembrance light cone issue. But most of all, if that new path could actually have a male character, that would be ideal. One of the biggest disappointments of version 3 was that while they introduced this shiny new path, not a single one of the Remembrance characters released was male. They certainly teased us. The Flame Reaver's whole deal was summoning copies of himself like pets, a very Remembrance sort of thing to do. But then it was revealed that Flame Reaver is Phynon from previous cycles, so it really seemed like Phynon himself would have some Remembrance-style summon powers. But nah. Now don't get me wrong, I absolutely adore what we got. Kaslana's whole "I'm basically a final boss" mechanic is really amazing. It's just unfortunate to not get to play with the new path that everyone else is getting to play with. And it's also a bit worrisome. The game already has a precedent for the appearance of gender locking. It took a year and a half for there to be a male Harmony character, and even a year after that, Sunday is still the only male Harmony character. And it took 2 years for there to be a male Quantum character, and Archer barely even counts since he's not technically even really in-universe. So I hope that version 4 brings us a Remembrance husbando. And, if we do get that new path, a husbando of that new path as well. At least that way, they can dispel the impression that the devs are intentionally refusing to allow male characters of certain types or paths. Mr. Rekka would make the most obvious Remembrance husbando. And if the new path is Elation, I would expect, at the very least, a Sampo SP. And while we're on the subject of seeming gender lock, my greatest hope for version 4 is a frickin' male fire DPS. I have a pretty great roster of characters capable of doing fantastically in the endgame modes, and I love them all quite dearly. But what I still do not have is a good fire DPS, let alone a husbando fire DPS. Ever since the release of Firefly, the devs seem to have gone out of their way to make sure that every fire character that comes out just so happens to be supportive of her. Jiao Cho buffs break damage with his vulnerability, Lingsha and Fugue are specifically built for break, and even the upcoming Dahlia is said to be another break support. Hard to find that merely coincidental, particularly when an inarguably fire-coded character like Mide ended up pushed onto the imaginary branch because God forbid there be another fire damage dealer in the game. So, in version 4, I'd really love to finally get a fire DPS husbando. But honestly, I'd even just be happy to see any other fire DPS at all. I wouldn't necessarily pull for her, sure, but just seeing her exist would be nice. I like Firefly and all, but she can't be the only limited fire DPS in the game. And you don't count because I honest to God forgot you were fire. So, that's just a few things that I hope for in version 4. Do you share my hopes, or maybe you hope for something that I didn't mention? Leave a comment down below and let me know. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this sort of thing, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to be notified when I post more things of this or any other nature. In the coming weeks, we'll have Durin pulls and Banyue pulls. I'm super excited for that. So if you want to see those things, subscribe so that you can see when I post them. In any case, thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you all again next time. Bye!